Thanks for tapping into Odang Gaming. Today I want to talk about Spider-Man 2. I finally finished it, platinumed it, put it down for good, and just in time for the Game of the Year nomination to come out for this game, which I could not believe. Now, this was a fun game, but in no way, in my opinion, is this game worth Game of the Year. And I'll go over that in this video. I'll also go over the things that Marvel improved on for this game, considering the past games, but I'll explain why this game is not a great game and why it has no business being on the Game of the Year nominations of other games that are on there and ones who are left off. So let's just get to it and talk about Spider-Man 2. Let's just start off with the short list first, which is some of the things that Marvel has improved on in their games as Spider-Man 1 has been out, I should say. First off, this game is basically just like Spider-Man 1 and just like Miles Morales. There's almost nothing different about it as far as combat goes. Nothing really new added to the game except you have web wings, and it is not a big enough addition to get that much of an overhype, in my opinion. One thing I always thought Marvel needed to improve on with their games was difficulty and challenge. Most Marvel games come with a high difficulty, but it's usually not super challenging. I played all their games on the hardest setting, and I've never had a problem. I've whipped right through them pretty quickly. Not saying I want to die 1,000 times like it's a From Software game, but I would like to spend, $70 on a game and have it be a little challenging. Now, this game is more challenging. The boss fights were a little bit tougher. I even died a few times, which is completely different from the games before. So, I really enjoyed this game as far as that improvement was. Excuse me, I'm feeling a little sick, but I just really wanted to talk about this game. I am happy they made the improvements. I thought they had some even great lineups for bosses, but as usual, Marvel just does not have its boss fights figured out completely. But I did like that they had upped the difficulty on the highest difficulty and made the game slightly, just slightly, a little bit more challenging. As far as some other positives go for this game, I think the graphics, obviously, for PS5 end up being super great. They looked really great. I thought the gameplay was pretty flawless as far as like combat and traveling through the city. Once you get used to it, it can be a lot of fun. I thought they improved on the previous games before that and made these games just a little bit better. But as far as that goes, that's about all the improvements I could see that they made from previous games to this games. Because as far as I can tell, they basically just repackaged previous Spider-Man games with a new story and gave it to us. And somehow that warrants Game of the Year. So let's just dive into some of the things I think are severely wrong with the game and why I think it's getting way more hype than it should. So one thing Marvel didn't get right, and they didn't listen to us apparently, after the first two games we complained about a lot of things. Like, we don't want to be Mary Jane, we don't want to go bicycle riding, or do little missions where it's just cheesy and stupid and the opposite of what a superhero game should be like. And I'm not going to, really, get too much into that, but in this game, you're riding bikes, you're playing carnival games, you're playing as Miles Morales' girlfriend with some spray paint, you're doing a bunch of missions as Mary Jane, who somehow now is basically the new superhero of Manhattan and New York. Why even have Spider-Man when Mary Jane can take down everybody with a taser? It is ridiculous. The storyline is ridiculous. And those parts of the game were absolutely terrible. Now that we're mentioning story, I'm not a super big guy about keeping things canon, but I hated Harry Osborn as Venom. Loved Venom, hated Harry Osborn being Venom. It just crosses too many lines as far as as a true Marvel fan goes and as a Spider-Man fan. And I don't really care what the reasoning was, I just feel like it was lazy writing for the story. Now, speaking of Venom, Venom was badass. Venom is always an awesome bad guy and an awesome part of Spider-Man's world, and we love Venom. And being Venom just made me realize how less fun it was being Spider-Man and how I wish this was a Venom game instead of Spider-Man, because that would have been even better. But It's just another thing that this game teased in our faces and then made us go back to playing as, Mary Jane or a really just lame Peter Parker. Like, this story is the lamest Peter Parker in all Marvel stories, maybe. I just really felt like at the end of it, I was a bigger Miles fan and way less of a Peter fan and way less of a Marvel gaming fan. Now, the story does play out like a lot of these Sony games where you do a lot of watching and a lot less playing compared to maybe other games that are out right now. But it is story heavy, but story was lame. And I really think they didn't add enough to make this feel like a new game. Like Spider-Man 1 felt like a new cool kind of game, and then they really didn't add any new experiences for this that I could recognize that I thought made it worthwhile and be nominated for Game of the Year again. Now, one thing they did change from Spider-Man 1 to Miles Morales and to this game was in Spider-Man 1, you could unlock different suits like you could in all these games, but in Spider-Man 1, the suits had like special powers. One was like an invisibility cloak, one was like electricity, and that made the suits like a lot cooler to me. And then Miles Morales came out, and the suits were mostly just aesthetic, just to look cool, which is fine, and Miles suits are usually the doper looking suits. So I was kind of wondering how Spider-Man 2 would approach this, and they did exactly what I was hoping they wouldn't do. And they gave us a bunch of suits, and they were just for aesthetics, just to look a certain way. And we had a bunch of repeated suits from the first Spider-Man game and the Miles Morales game. So it just even lamer to me. Like, we can't even get all new suits. We have half new suits, half old suits, and I don't know. I just thought that was lame. I liked the suits that had the special abilities. I thought that was a cool addition for that game, and I thought it would make other games going forward more unique because they would come up with different ideas for different suits. And man, this game was just a letdown. There was so many repeated suits. For those of you who are playing, and if you've played the other ones before, you will see there are so many repeated suits. The one suit they did add that gave you special abilities was the symbiote suit, the Venom suit. That classic story of Spider-Man acquiring the black suit. We all love it. Anybody who's a Marvel fan has seen it in so many different, versions of that and so many different ways. And I was excited to see it in that, and it was pretty cool. You do get special powers. You're a lot stronger. It's a lot of fun, but after a few hours, it can get old. One thing I thought was interesting was the ultimate skill you do with that suit on was very similar to God of War's Spartan Rage. Like, Spider-Man acts like he gets all super mad, and then he just starts beating a bunch of ass, and it's sweet, but there's a lot of little cutscenes while it's going on and stuff like that, so it was kind of a cool addition to the game. I won't knock on that so much, but like I said, the suit gets old after a while because, after a few hours, you just, you want to try something different. And I just think the replayability of the suits in this game is very low, and I think that's something, for me, that makes the game less appealing and less worthy of the nomination that's going to be out this year, and less of a great game. Now that I've brought up replayability, I just want to say Spider-Man 2 replayability is low in my opinion. They give you a new difficulty, a higher difficulty if you beat the game, but I hate when games do that. Give me the hardest difficulty from the very beginning, because I don't want to play your entire game. Maybe it's long, maybe it's short, but it was mostly movie. Maybe it was like this game and I didn't really 100% enjoy it, and the hardest difficulty wasn't that tough, so is the next difficulty really worth it? I really didn't feel like replaying to find out. I don't think that's a great option that games give you to want to replay the game. I just really don't think that's the way to go. I'd rather have alternate endings, honestly. Horizon Forbidden West did the higher difficulty when you beat the game, and it was like, I just put so many hours in, I don't want to replay again at that difficulty. Like, give me the tough stuff from the beginning. I just don't think that's the right way to try to make games replayable. I think it's just kind of lazy. And I think they should come up with better ideas to make these games more replayable. And I think Spider-Man 2's replayability being so low is just another notch on the belt of why this game, I think, is just not as great as everybody is saying it is. I think this game, overall, being reviewed, it's like a solid 7, 6.5. We really didn't get something that much different or that much better. They really just kind of like smushed Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales together and called it a new game with some story, and I just don't think it was worth a nomination for the Game of the Year. Like, not even close. I mean, I think Star Wars Survivor was a better sequel and a better game, and I wasn't even considering that for Game of the Year. And I think it's miles ahead of Spider-Man 2 and better, especially as far as the sequel goes. They gave us so much more as a new game and as a sequel, and they didn't just like copy and paste and mush a bunch of crap together and try calling it a new game just because Spider-Man sells. He's, Marvel's Batman. He just sells. And man, I feel like this being nominated for Game of the Year, it was similar to Stray last year. Like, I played Stray and it was alright, but it was no Game of the Year. And I just don't understand, like, where these certain nominations come in for games that don't deserve it. Overall, Spider-Man 2 was a fun game, but it wasn't a good game, and it wasn't definitely a great game. And it definitely doesn't deserve Game of the Year in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't deserve to be on the list. And that's just how I truly feel about it. Say whatever. I love Marvel, so usually I would be biased in this, but that's how bad I thought the game was compared to its predecessors and the games that are out this year as far as Game of the Year goes. So, take it as you will. Thanks for tuning into Odane Gaming. Thanks for watching. If you got a second, hit them like and subscribe buttons. And let's just hope that Marvel does better with Wolverine, because if they don't, that's the last Marvel game I'm probably playing. Alright guys, have a good one.